So the first thing is that, congregational singing is a wonderful thing. It's the fruit of a thing. It's not. It's the cause of it. It's the interest on investment. It's not the actual investment. It's itself. And then B, while it is a wonderful thing, it doesn't solve any problems. Those are my two things.
That's a ball.
Yeah, I guess there's two balls there, but it's the same thing.
I'm supposed to field them?
One ball, yeah.
Well,
Where do you go with that?
I feel like I'm just kicking it the same direction as you. All right, so I'll be the person. This will be fun. Yeah, well, when I guess by the person I mean the devil. Okay.
Oh, you mean devil's advocate? Oh, okay. I like it.
Yeah, well, okay, that's great, but I know that my people are sad when they feel excluded from worship, when worship gets so refined that they're incapable of actually like rising to that level. They feel excluded. And I also know that it's just a lot easier. It's easier because it's easier to just have people sing along. So maybe, I don't know, when I'm in church, it seems like everybody just sings. They just know what to do and they just join in, and that seems easier. It seems like that's actually just cheaper and more efficient, and everybody has a better time.
Well, what I would say is that if that's the way that works, it's a great idea.
I killed it.
Good job. You did kill it.
He's not even gonna. He can't even.
Well, I'm dumped. I've never thought of any of that.
But I don't mean to say that is. I don't actually mean to represent those.
That's
opinions.
not a bad argument.
Those are true things.
Yeah, those are true.
Those
things.
are facts.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've had those experiences myself.
And what I would say is that if that is how it works in your church, then great, you're doing great, and don't stop. The reality is that that's not really how it works in a lot of communities. So a lot of people end up having congregational singing in their church because well, they don't have they don't have a choir, or they haven't been able to maintain one, or have a choir director.
Well, if they do have a choir, they can't actually discern a significant qualitative difference.
Right, there might not be
between the way 5 of their people would sing and the way 45 of their people sing.
Right,
and so it just feels exclusive, or that the repertoire itself is actually only understood as an oral tradition. Like, there might not actually be a reason for a choir to gather around books.
Right. So, for instance, like in the Malankara
or the
tradition,
the Great Russian.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in particular in the Malankara tradition, where they sing almost everything congregationally. They're nobody's really singing out of a book. They don't have, or they're singing out of a book of words. They're not singing out of notated music, because it's an embodied oral tradition. So like that's great. I mean, like, if that's how you do church, then great. But what do you do when you're dealing with, and this is what we've got a lot of in the OCA. You're dealing with a parish of people that are trying to learn the tradition, either for the first time or to reclaim it in some way from their grandparents, there's been a lot forgotten between their grandparents and them, and there's 3 people in the church that kind of remember how the songs are supposed to go, but they're not really, they don't know how to explain it to anybody. They're not musical leaders. So, basically you get a scenario like that, and they try to sing all together, or, it just ends up being a very difficult experience for everybody. It doesn't sound good.
Takes a lot of time to transmit a tradition orally. Huge amount of time.
Yeah.
Congregational singing is primarily the transmission of an oral tradition, whether or not somebody's starting from notes. That's actually how it works. So for it to be really spectacular, either everybody's will have had to have been doing it for decades.
Not decades, for generations.
Well, right. Or you just have to wait.
So
it's not a good solution for.
So the issue that we're at, like, so
an immediate
so the state that we're in right now is that we're and don't forget that as soon as we started worshiping in English in American parishes, there was basically it was like a continental plate split off, because you in the words and the whole approach to language causes a huge change in how you sing. I mean, just down to, you cannot sing from the same sheet of music, or you can't sing the song by heart anymore. You have to sing it in English, and it doesn't just mean like you can just remove the old words and put in the new ones, because the language is different. The whole syntax of the language is different. The number of syllables is different, and all of these things will affect how you sing. So even if you're in an old guard community and you're singing in English, you're not dealing with that kind of reservoir of cultural memory that a church in the old world would be able to take for granted. So the music, in a sense, is new to all of us. I say new, but it's only a generation or two old at most. Now that's certainly enough time to build up some capital, but a lot of communities aren't dealing with that. They're not dealing with a generation or two of embodied musical memory. They're dealing with none at all, or a few months or a few years, and they're coming at it where, for a lot of us now as modern day Americans, we're not musically educated. We don't read music. We're not taught to read music in school. Most people who sing in church choirs don't really read music. So they're all relying on being taught it by somebody, presumably, who knows how to teach them, except they don't. And there isn't anybody to teach them. So what do you do? Well, we're in a state now where we have to reinvest. We have to. We've run out of the capital, and we need to build it up again. So how do you build up musical capital? Well, you build musicians. You start at the top. You get musicians in your church, people that are musically literate, and most importantly, they know how to teach. They know how to sing. They know how to lead by example. They know how to cultivate musical skills in others. They know how to cultivate musical skills in kids. So we basically have to do the work now. We have to, and part of that work is like, well, why would I bother to do music in church? Well, you could get paid to do it. That's one good way to incentivize people to invest in music in the church. But also, you could make the music really inspiring and really good, and that will inspire people to say, "Wow, that sounds beautiful. I want to be part of that. I want to do more of that. I want to learn how to do that." So
and the trained person who has been invested in then can also make the decision, an informed decision, a sensitive decision about what kind of performance, what kind of forces are going to be singing in that service. is it going to be congregational singing? If it's congregational singing, there is discrete techniques that work to be able to make that more effective, which, and by effective, I mean inspiring, beautiful, and as congregational singing. So there isn't a dichotomy between congregational singing and a specific ensemble. That's everybody likes to talk about them being ordained, this group that's set apart to lead.
Right.
It's a false dichotomy. It's the same thing.
There are two aspects of this thing that we would call a culture of church music.
What we want to see is people doing what they're doing better.
Redhead boy becomes a red